Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Black History Month speaker series. Today we have Dr. Jonelle Basso, biologist research scientist at the DOE Joint Genome Institute. She is a microbial ecologist whose research currently focuses on plant-microbe interactions. In 2022, she was the recipient of the LBNL Early Career LDRD Award, where her latest work explores the interaction of viruses with plant uh, microbials in the rhizosphere. A native of the beautiful twin island republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Basso holds a PhD in microbiology from the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. Her scientific vision is to conduct and communicate science while engaging with students of diverse backgrounds and perspectives. She also aims to positively sculpt the world through scientific discovery and contribute to a more inclusive scientific community. Now we have a short video of Dr. Basso's research.
So I've always marveled at the ability of plants. This is coming from the tiniest Arabidopsis plant to the tallest sequoia. There is this interface below ground where plants, roots, and soil interact. And there's something amazing that's happening there. Millions of microorganisms are interacting with plant roots. My research, in part, looks at the interactions between plants and microbes and trying to help identify those microorganisms that are helpful and essential to plants, and trying to combat others that are pests to plants without using chemical pesticides. One of the notable discoveries of plant-microbe interactions is actually trying to tease apart individual cells from a microbial community and seeing exactly how they're doing, what they're doing, and how they interact with their environment. An exciting thing about our group is that single-cell genomics technologies have been applied to identify which genes are actually crucial for this interaction between microbes and plants, trying to see how we can actually make other organisms better at helping the plants in this way.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Dr. Jonelle Basso.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I am Jonelle Basso, a research scientist at the Joint Genome Institute studying plant-microbe interactions, and here I'll discuss my vision of conducting and communicating science while engaging with those of diverse backgrounds with the goal of sculpting a more inclusive scientific community. So with a spirit of gratitude, I wanted to offer heartfelt thanks to all of you for being here to listen to my seminar, and a big thank you to the AAERG for inviting me to be part of the seminar series. Today, I thought it pertinent and fitting to start this Black History Month seminar series with someone who came before me and is a source of inspiration. Before I was a thought, there was Dr. Ruth Ella Moore. This woman of worth was the first Black woman to be awarded a PhD in the natural sciences and first Black scientist to obtain a PhD in bacteriology, where her work focused on tuberculosis. She passed on 30 years ago this year, and in 1936 was the first Black woman to join the American Society of Microbiology, a scientific society of which I am a member, attend their meetings, and present my work. As there were those before me, it is my responsibility to help create a space for those who will follow. As a little introduction, I am from a tiny island in the Caribbean called Trinidad and Tobago. And like many of us, quite often in our childhood, I was faced with a few pertinent questions. Namely, what do I want to do when I get older? Who will I become? and why? So when asked this question very early on, I said I wanted to be a nurse because I wanted to help people. Well, I later realized that needles and I are not friends, so that did not materialize, but I still very much love the sciences. Growing up on an island, I really loved the water and nature and still very much had this burning desire to help people. So fast forward a few years to where I was of age to pick high school or secondary school subjects before heading to college, and I chose to focus on geography, biology, and math. So with direction from the school system and teachers, and even after school lessons teachers such as Mrs. Defantala and Mr. Fayed Ali, the most obvious choice at that time was to pursue an environmental science track. Now at home we have a saying, one hand can't clap, meaning that there are things you cannot do alone. There's also an African proverb which says hands wash each other that has a similar meaning, which is that we are here on this planet to help each other and build one another up. So, wanting to pursue an environmental science discipline, no one in my family had that background. So from that standpoint, I was on my own. As a result, I looked for other support systems to propel me forward because somehow I knew that I couldn't do it all on my own. Additionally, during my PhD, I often heard this phrase, you can't get through grad school on your own. And so this is where I'd like to introduce the concepts of collaboration and mentorship. Through a collaborative effort, which includes many others I have not yet mentioned, I started my undergraduate degree in Jamaica, and I did a double major in environmental biology. I returned home and worked for a couple of years, then ventured forth to Florida to do my master's in environmental science and policy. After master's, I was then hired as a researcher at the College of Marine Science. And if anyone here remembers that big oil spill that happened in the Gulf of Mexico, I was one of those who worked on research vessels for 3 years following that event. And I would go out to sea 6 times a year, 6 to 10 days at a time, and collect water samples using bacteria and viruses to help monitor the health of the Gulf. It was during this time that I attended a virus conference that showed me that viruses were really incredible. And so I really, really wanted to obtain a PhD in microbiology studying them in the marine environment. To pursue this terminal degree, I enrolled in the microbiology department at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. I did 2 rotations, one with Dr. Sarah Liebes and with Alison Buchan, and ultimately I stayed in Alison's lab. Now, because I love viruses, allow me to talk about them just a little bit. If you look at a drop of ocean water, add a stain, and then look at it under a microscope, like in the picture on the left, you see all these dots. And it is actually all the smaller dots that are viruses. For my PhD under the mentorship of Alison, I studied how marine viruses affect very abundant group of marine bacteria called Rosiobacters. I discovered that viruses are not only very effective killers of bacteria, but they can also affect the metabolism of the host cell and even regulate some of its genes. And this happens in the relationship between bacteria and viruses in the oceans, in humans, and in other ecosystems. Alison and Sarah were both on my PhD committee. Each had their own expertise, but each had their own way of organizing their thoughts and research. So I learned how to do science and was mentored by them. But perhaps even more importantly, I learned how to advance in this field from my peers. And I give a lot of acknowledgements and thanks to Dr. Nana Ankro, who was my peer mentor in the department, and I help celebrate him today, who is now an assistant professor at the State University of New York in Plattsburgh. He helped me navigate the lab and academic expectations, and I actually credit him for encouraging me to apply to the program after meeting him at that aquatic virus conference where we were the only Black people in attendance. And after he left the PhD program, I was the only Black student there for some years. And so having completed my PhD, I applied for a postdoctoral position here at the lab to start on April 1st, 2020. So while here, I was awarded the Early Career LDRD in 2022, which provided me the opportunity to gain funding and start a team of my own, and also start looking at some interesting interactions between bacteria and viruses around plant roots. So today, I'm a research scientist at the Joint Genome Institute, where my research and expertise is in microbial ecology, and my supervisor is Dr. Axel Wiesel. I grow things such as these plant microbes you can see swimming around here, and so I tend to work on site every day. At large, working at Berkeley Lab, there are an established set of core stewardship values, which are integral to what I do on a daily basis, one of which is team science. And I work with my team of LDRD collaborators found within the Biosciences Division, who consist of world-leading virologists, those with extensive training in plant microbe interactions and microscopy. And this team allows Berkeley Lab the potential to make unique contributions in understanding this environmental system behavior. Namely, this environment is in and around plants. There are key microenvironments or parts of a plant where the chemistry and microbiology are influenced by their growth and nutrient exchange. And these microenvironments are namely at the leaves, at the roots, and inside the plant. And they're often populated by microbes. The plant itself describes the host plant's microbial inhabitants of these microenvironments, which include bacteria, fungi, viruses, and protists. As such, they play a critical role in promoting plant growth, enhancing plant fitness, and in shedding light on associated biotic factors. The focus microenvironment of my research is the rhizosphere, of which considerable work has historically focused on the bacterial and fungal components of the plant microbiome. In contrast, we know much less about what viruses are doing in such systems, even though they are the most abundant biological entities on the planet. And they are found everywhere and have been documented to bring about host-specific changes in many other environments. In our system, we're interested in trying to figure out what's going on between plant growth-promoting rhizobacteria and their resident viruses in the rhizosphere of specific plant species. And we have evidence to suggest that these resident viruses of specific bacteria may be helpful in their interaction with plant root systems. Due to these viral findings and suggested active role of plant root association in a multipartite way, we really wanted to better understand the mechanisms of microbial association of plant roots, with the hypothesis that resident viral genes in this particular rhizobacterium enhance their host roots association capabilities. We can use these really cool fabricated ecosystems, or ecofabs for short, that they designed here at the lab to identify how bacteria are associating with the roots by looking at their distribution. And some initial images of the root tip look like this. And so we can take images in stacks so you can look at the plant root from one plane of view to another. As part of the LDRD funding, I was able to hire and establish my scientific team. That has currently taken on the biomolecular tasks, while Hee-jung is working on computational aspects. In addition to securing this funding through the LDRD, I have had the honor of mentoring a diverse set of brilliant interns from UC Merced while at the lab, and I have also worked and published with amazing interns during my PhD, all who have worked on aspects of my research. However, in the spirit of Black History Month, I would like to emulate these African American students in particular. I have met some of these interns through the National Science Foundation funded Research Experience for Undergrad program, which is very competitive and offered at different institutions. And my PhD department offered such an opportunity for mentorship and research. So I asked Avery, one of my former REUs, if she could mention in what ways mentorship from the REU experience was helpful to her, or perhaps what she liked best from the experience. And this was Avery's response. She said that she had the opportunity to meet and work one-on-one with role models in STEM, which can be hard to find for undergrads at institutions with limited spots for research. She also got good exposure for what grad school would be like and what sorts of career paths were available. She felt that it reinforced her desire to pursue STEM, and it allowed her to really meet some of the best friends or most supportive friends for life. I've also met my interns through a long-term partnership between the JGI and UC Merced, where for 10 years we've hosted summer interns from that campus. In addition to the JGI's user capabilities and science programs, the JGI is interested in developing the next generation workforce and collaborators. I've mentored 3 students to work on research projects, one of which was a comparative meta-analysis of plant-associated and non-plant-associated bacteriophages by Dr. Tyrone Sweet. In 2022, Tyrone, a former quantitative and systems biology PhD student at Merced and currently a postdoc at Emory University, really blew everyone away with his strong presentation presence, which led him to being a presenter and award winner at JGI's 2022 user meeting. To him, the project was only part of the internship experience, but he really felt invested in and strengthened for not just during the program, but for his future endeavors. These are huge sentiments. In fact, this particular empowerment has already seen success for both the students and institutions alike, where some have gone on to graduate programs, postdocs, or even returning to the JGI after the program. Additionally, in this hybrid format of that year, students got the opportunity to be in this physical space, meet their mentors, other scientists, and their peers on site at the midterm presentation, final, or both, and even tour the IGB. And while mentoring, I too have learned from my mentees. And so my last UC Merced JGI intern from 2023, Emerald Nash, had a fully on-site internship experience. Emerald, a computer science undergrad, I learned, has so much passion for learning and asks me all the questions. As an undergrad and a new grad student, I would have never had the courage, and I applauded him for this. In our conversations, we'd spoken about key aspects of biology, how to carry out experiments with plants and microorganisms, what's in a CV, and important preparation points for various presentation types. We have also spoken about keeping a good work-life balance and reinforcing a habit of working during regular work hours and enjoying the weekend. These are not only life lessons for him, but for myself, as I learn and grow managing people, managing projects within the JGI. Healthy habits keep burnout at bay, promotes good mental health, and helps maintain continued energy for the science we all love to do. In an environment where questions are welcome, collaboration is encouraged, and there's respect for each other, much confidence in skill sets and professional development can be achieved. And I've seen this happen working alongside with Emerald. So these students identified that through their internships and through mentorship, they were able to learn from a trained personnel in the field, collaborate with role models, they felt empowered, and they got to collaborate on some really interesting projects. But there are only so many internship programs, many of which are very competitive, as well as mentors and bandwidth of mentors. And there are very many barriers to STEM education. In fact, recognizing what these barriers are is crucial to understanding the needs of those to follow us, particularly if there's a yearning for mentors and role models that may look like them. This may include affinity groups and protected categories relating to race or ethnicity, gender, socioeconomic status, and disability. For many, cost and time of education is a barrier, in addition to lack of access to programs and qualified instructors. Therefore, several students who are subject to these visible or invisible factors at the school, family, or student levels may have alternate outcomes of academic success. For example, first-generation students may need to be resilient in the face of factors such as language, culture, and expectations. And these added obstacles may result in stunted academic growth or even elimination from programs. In fact, all my interns made it through the undergraduate level. But if you look at the statistics in the United States, less than 2% of the population have PhDs. And as of 2022, roughly 40% of the population had a college degree. So this is improvement over time, but it also shows that many students across the country may be the first in their families to attain such academic achievement. And these 2023 data show that there's some disparity by ethnicity for those who are attaining college degrees. So though several students may have that push from home to pursue higher education, and again, there is progress, there will be many whose families cannot provide direction for navigating the trials that they will encounter. And by these data, of course, this resource will vary greatly according to ethnicity. And these students are then subject to the quality of education and guidance that they will receive from their school system and peers. And when it comes to Black students looking for role models that may look like them, these statistics translate into there being less than 10 Black scientists who are currently leading teams or projects at this moment at Berkeley Lab. So often for those of us who are here in these roles and know these data, it could sometimes feel like a heavy daily load, one which we need to carry with grace. And I can speak for myself that it could feel like a lot of work to do for a select few if not everyone is involved or invested. So one thing that we can all do in contribution to make this load a little lighter is to be a mentor. And to be a good mentor, whoever you are, you need to make space for others to not only survive, but also thrive in the same space. This is important to the scientific community if we expect growth of the total workforce, and this includes marginalized persons. Sometimes a mentee may think that they're experiencing imposter syndrome, when in fact, there may be something about that space that is not safe. So if it is mentioned, believe them and see if the environment itself can be changed in order to ensure better success. Additionally, it is very important to meet people where they are. I repeat for emphasis, to meet people where they are. This enables better communication, listening, and trust, which are key for a more meaningful and longer lasting mutual interaction. And we at Berkeley Lab, through the hard work of many, have established K-12 programs and internship programs, of which several of us volunteer for engagement with students. We communicate our science to a broad audience and sometimes get the opportunity to discuss our ideas with members of the DOE Office of Science. And we have commitment from the DOE as well to foster these ideals. But with increased awareness of barriers and increased development of programs, it is very important to make sure that if we are to do the work, we need to do it well, and that our proposals don't read as deficit models. Our goal should be about removing systemic obstacles that we will work on decreasing. So if we return to these terms that outline systems of life work, and I see myself and who I have become, it is not just my academic success, but a shared success of myself and my mentors, mentees, advocates, and collaborators. So with that, thank you for your attention. Thanks for being a great environment to conduct team science, and I'll welcome any questions from you all at this time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jonelle, for that talk. That was great.
Thank
I'll
you.
start with the first question. So that's quite a story, and thank you for sharing it with us. When the intro video that we played, the Basics to Breakthrough video, was filmed in 2020, you were a postdoc.
Right.
Now, what seems like a lot of years, but it's only a few years later, right? In 2024, you've become a research scientist. establish a team, and are mentoring. So is there any other advice beyond some of the things you mentioned, any other advice you would give to upcoming postdocs or others who are hoping to excel in STEM careers?
Mhm. So that's a really good question, Miles. Thank you. I will encourage those that are coming to first of all be kind to yourself. And I say that not just to them, but also as a reminder to myself. I would also add to have the courage to ask questions and use your voice and find out and use all the resources available to you. For example, I used to be extremely afraid of giving talks. And I think I got a little bit better about that. But at the lab, I was encouraged by my supervisor, Axel Biesel, to join the Toastmasters Club. So I did, and I would practice giving speeches and critiquing speeches, and it was an avenue for improvement. And so I'm very happy for that support and encouragement from my supervisor. So those are just a little things I would mention.
I think the Toastmasters classes have definitely paid off. We have a
Thank you.
few comments in the chat. Someone says, thank you for paying it forward through mentorships. Another person says, thank you, wonderful talk and very inspiring.
Thank you.
I would also ask what advice you have for Black or African-American women beginning their career. And is there something that you wished you had known when you first started based on the insight that you have in your current position?
Yeah, I think that I would also give similar advice, particularly in the be kind to yourself. Especially when I started at the lab, I didn't know all the expectations, all that was expected of me. And so I was really, really grateful for key people who were really advocates for myself, not just for my science, but also for my mental health. And so if I can call out Maureen and Janie, there are a couple times where they can tell, Jonelle, you're stressed. Go take a break. You're fine. You're doing great. And so having people to also let you know you're doing fine. You're probably doing a lot. Maybe take a break so you can renew that energy and continue going forward. And I also want to really mention a lot of people at the JGI have been really supportive in terms of me putting in, say, applications for LDRD or ACRP. And at first, I was kind of, scared, should I ask this person or not? And a lot of people were really, really grateful, were really supportive and offered a lot of feedback. So in addition to that, I know that there are people right here in building 91 who, reserve the room to watch my talk. And some of those people have also reviewed documents of mine. So as I continue forward, they have also made sure to let me know you have support. And so when people are supporting you and willing to support you, really take advantage of that and also make sure to tell them thank you.
And it sounds like you just did. That's one of the great things about the lab is a lot of support, team science. Question from the chat. First, they say great talk and wondering if there are any pivotal moments or steps that helped with your career progression.
Mm-hmm. I would say that I originally did not think that I wanted a PhD, to be honest. And so my original idea was that I would get an undergrad, get a master's, and I'll go back home and I'll have my own consultancy firm doing water quality analysis and management. And so as luck would have it, things had changed along that time. And I think one of the most pivotal points would be being in John Paul's lab at the College of Marine Science. And really and truly, we were hosting the aquatic virus workshop. So all I really had to do was just help with the audiovisual. But at that time, because I wasn't sure, did I want to do a PhD or not? I just listened to all the talks. And so Dr. Alison Buchan was there, Dr. Steve Wilhelm was there. A lot of the people who were, really, really integral and very important when it comes to aquatic virus research. And so I was inspired by a lot of what they were talking about. And I kept in contact with people that I met at that conference. And so I think that opened my eyes to specifically aquatic virus research, but then the field of microbiology. Again, growing up, we spoke a lot about environmental science, right? Because that's what people knew at that time. And I think based on that, I also have this strong yearning to give talks at home. So I have spoken to high school students at home as well as, of course, in the United States, but also let them know that this is an avenue of research that you can pursue, and people are making a lot of good progress in this way.
That's great. You mentioned team science is a key to your work, and you seem to have a great collaborative approach. How have you grown and sustained your internal research partnerships?
My internal research partnerships. How can I answer? That's a good question. So starting off as a postdoc, I think that just within that first year, I decided I'll just try for the slam. And so that year I'd gotten the People's Choice Award. And from that, I think from that moment as well, I got the opportunity to talk about my science. And so within that first year, I decided that I wanted to try for the LDRD. And so at that time, I was very new still in that position, but I had support from people in the JGI and from my supervisor as well. And we also got feedback from the process. And so even though I didn't get it the first round, I tried again in the second round. And so I got it in 2022. So coming out of that, I am now applying for the early career ECRP, so the early career research program through the Department of Energy. So that would be a 5-year type of funding, research funding. So although I know it's a long shot, but I will give it my best. And so if by this round I don't get it, I'll try another round, because from 10 years of getting your PhD, you have an opportunity to try 3 times for the ECRP. And I'll also look out for other funding opportunities to pursue my research.
So let's just start by saying that was a wonderful slam talk.
Thank
The
you.
People's Choice Award, right? I voted for you. Well, I didn't have a vote. I would have voted for you.
Thank you.
And Toastmasters says thanks for the shout out.
Thank you for the support.
Let's see. You talked a lot about the support that you've had, and that's great. But I'd also like, if you wouldn't mind, to touch on any of the challenges that you may have faced.
Yeah, so I think, of course, one of the challenges for me would have been starting when I did. So I think I got my offer letter maybe 2 weeks before everything shut down. And so someone who is in the lab and grows things, and not starting my postdoc, and it's a 2-year postdoc, I was concerned that I couldn't get into the lab to do what I needed to do, which was a little bit unnerving. And then even coming into the lab, again, it's an open lab space. You see reagents, you don't know who they belong to. If you have any questions, you can't just turn and ask someone. They're probably, a select few on site. So at that point in time, I did not know how fast of progress I was actually making at that time. And so I think that was one of the challenges. I would also say I feel more comfortable in approaching people to ask for things if I know them first. And so in the beginning, everything was virtual. So I'd probably seen everyone in the screen at some point. And I got a little bit stressed out at first, writing to say, "Hi, I'm Jonelle. I am new. Can you help me do such and such?" And I realized after time that really everybody wanted to help. And so I needed to shed that fear and allow others to help me. And honestly, as time progressed, everything opened up as it would ordinarily. Everything really seemed much easier as time went on.
Conducting our business and our lives in 2020 was challenging for everyone. Yeah.
Yes, agreed.
It's almost like if you start during that period, it's like the beginning of an era. So to that end, what goals do you have for the future? What's next for you?
Yeah, so I think for myself, I really enjoy being at the Joint Genome Institute, and I enjoy working with the people that I do. And I think that is actually one thing that has kept me here at the lab. That I really enjoy the people I get to work alongside every day. And everyone is really brilliant, and they come from all around the world, which leads to a very exciting way to learn and grow as a person and as a researcher. And another thing that's kept me here at the lab too is that my supervisor has been an excellent advocate for me and for others at the JGI. And I have a lot of respect and thanks for Axel. For moving forward, if I can, it'll be great to continue to work at the lab. And if not, I will continue to work in research. I really still have this burning desire to do, viral research or microbial ecology. And then in addition to that, I really do want to encourage or continue to encourage ones who will follow, all right? To also see that you can be a research scientist, you can be, in the sciences in different aspects. It doesn't have to be exactly the way I am or the way in which I have done it. This is my journey, and this is my way. But you can do it in many ways. So just for them to see that, it will be good both in the United States and back home in Trinidad and Tobago, or really anywhere in the world where there is accessibility to seeing this being done in this collaborative team science and this type of science. I would be like really happy about that.
You're doing a great job so far, and we can all see and hear the passion that you have about your work and your research. Axel reminds us that you started on April 1st of 2020 and onboarded remotely. So that I'm sure that posed some challenges. Given where things are now, there was something that you said in your talk that someone wanted to ask about, which is, can you explain what you mean by meeting people where they're at, or give an example?
Yes, so agreed. Thank you so much for the question. And this actually comes from my father. So I'm really, really close to my dad, and he's been told, and this is true, he's a very great listener. And he may be a man of few words, but when he speaks, you know that these words they've been thought of, and they're really thoughtful, what he wants to say. And so he's told me this in terms of being able to listen to others and to understand what their needs are. And so if you know that this is who this person is, this is what they would like to achieve, and this is where they are, you meet them there. So for example, with Emerald was really excited to work with me. He's an undergraduate, computer science undergrad, and he really wants to do this project. Okay, fine. But he has no biology background. So I have to start from zero, from first principles of biology, zero, in order to help him understand what a transposon is, why this is important, why we're doing what we're doing in the lab. And by doing that, I met him where he was. He was able to understand these key concepts, be able to communicate that through presentation, and you start to see the aha moments go on, and it changes the type of questions that are asked. And so I also understood that he wanted to know more about how to present in front of others. So before the JGI UC Merced internship program, the only presentation he had ever done was probably 10 minutes long. And so I had to tell him, okay, this is the method to the madness, and this is how we will practice to make sure that you are up to speed for your final and for your midterm presentation. And I think doing it that way, or understanding where he was, it bridged the gap between knowing and not knowing. And so I think that is very important. And you realize that if you bridge those knowledge gaps, you are empowered to do better later on.
I think the last question that we have is one I also wondered about, and I'll just preface the question by saying that, you know, the African American ERG, the name of it, we want to make sure that everyone understands that it's inclusive and it's not just about African American. The history of our people in this country and the world, for that matter, dictates that it's more of an African diaspora, people from all over that, you know, face similar challenges based on our heritage. And so the question is, are there any challenges that you feel comfortable sharing about coming from Trinidad and Tobago to this country and how that process has been for you?
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. I think that one of the things I realized in living in Florida, Tennessee, and California is that even though these are the United States, a lot of the states themselves can almost feel like separate countries because each has their own unique culture, expectations, written and unwritten rules. And depending on who lives there, they interpret it as they want. So for example, if someone in the South or in Tennessee, they say, bless your heart, it's not necessarily a good thing, right? And you kind of learn how to navigate in that space. And I think learning to navigate in that space is one big challenge. And then also being away from family and friends when things are happening and you're not present is very hard. So the running joke for me is that I've moved north and west constantly. And so when I lived in Florida, I can go home twice a year and I can see family, and it was wonderful. Moving to Tennessee, especially in Knoxville, there's a smaller airport. So the first time going home, I had 3 flights down, and it was a full day event. And then, of course, starting in the beginning of the pandemic, I couldn't be home to, be with my family for a couple of years. And so this has been a challenge. So sometimes as well, people pass on and you're not there to be there for them too. So sometimes there are personal challenges, but then sometimes in terms of what I may want to see in terms of development for my country, if there are not many people that are doing it, or for example, microbiologists in positions of faculty or elsewhere, it's hard to then see the change that you want to see without certain resources that are available. And so I have to also remind myself that, sometimes we say baby steps, but baby steps for baby is difficult, right? And so baby steps in increments forward is great, but sometimes things may happen a little bit longer than you would think or expect. So perhaps as Ruth Ellen Moore has passed on 30 years now, perhaps in another 30 years or 30 years after I'm gone, hopefully someone could be at the lab or somewhere else talking about their journey. And I hope that it is better than even mine or what Ruth Ellen Moore could have even dreamed of.
Thank you for that. A couple of things. I would point out that a lot of Black people in the United States of America have moved north and west over the course of history. We'll just leave that there. And the other
Agreed.
thing is just to bring some clarity to those who might not be aware, maybe particularly down in the South, if somebody says, bless your heart, it's not necessarily a positive thing because they're just being a little condescending. It's one of those things.
Yeah.
But those are the little anecdotes that we like. And so the way that you bring out both the science and the history of your experience and all of your intelligence and enthusiasm in the way that you deliver it, we really do appreciate. And I don't see any other questions. I think you've had a wonderful talk, and thank you so much for coming, and I'll give you the final word.
Thank you so much. I'll just say thank you to everyone for attending, for your support. Also support of the ERGs and African American ERG as well. And so with that, I have no more words, but a lot of thanks. So thank you all.